What's up, DFS Army? This is Kevin, and I'm here to... Sorry, a little technical difficulty there. This is Kevin here, and I'm here to do a quick tutorial on our new MLB stacking function. This is launching tomorrow, so probably whenever you're listening to this, should be in the next day or so. And I wanted to get ahead of that by putting a tutorial out, teach you guys how to use this new freaking awesome stacking feature that we've put together for MLB. This is going to translate over to some other sports too, so it's really good we're getting the testing in now of this concept. And we have something similar that we do for NFL already with player names. So let's just get right into it. Here you're looking at the Domination Station Optimizer. Obviously, this is a baseball specific new function. So I'm just gonna, I've already put a little something together, but you can see Draftkings Classic main slate. I've already kind of set up some of this stuff, so let's turn this off. And I basically want to show you what the stacking system looks like. And here we go. We start by hitting Enable Stacking. Now, when you open this up, you're going to see a screen, and it allows you to add teams as you like. Like if I wanted to add, so you can, the first choice we make is single stack or double stack, right? Before, on the initial version, it was just a double stack. We didn't even bother with single stacks. Now we can set it up. So you can choose a single stack, which would be, you know, I put the Mets and Rangers in here and run some lineups. We're going to get lineups with one team stacked, 5 players, nothing else on the other team. Take a look. So you see here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Rangers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Rangers, so on and so forth. The Mets ones will show the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Mets players, and you can still get a pitcher, and that's the rules, that's the allowance. So the pitcher position will not count for the stack, and you can, you know, stack a pitcher and these players. So that's your initial stack, and this is very, very important. When we want to go to double stacking, check off double stacking. Now, on Draftkings, the max stack is 5 for one team, so you might go 5-3 if you wanted to do a full stack. You can also, you know, choose 4-2, 4-3, however you want. There are a lot of different approaches to stacking in MLB, and my general thought is I don't like to constrain the tool all the way down so that it doesn't have any players to choose outside of the stacks. I usually would go with 4-3, for example, on Draftkings, and pretty much on Fanduel as well. That's how I usually do it. So I don't like to constrain the tool too much, but you can. Now here's a very important thing to note. The way our stack system is set up, the stack 1 team is in essence the primary stack. So the Mets and the Rangers are the primary stack. The stack 2 teams are the secondary stack. What that means in terms that you'll understand is what the tool is going to attempt to do here, if I click stack, is it's going to try to, well, let's say we're making, let's call it 100 lineups. 50 of them will be stacked with the Mets, 50 of them will be stacked with the Rangers, and of the 50 that go with the Mets, 20% will pair up with Washington, 20% will pair up with Cleveland, 20% of them will pair up with the Yankees. So in essence, what's happening here is we're ensuring that for each primary stack and secondary stack, the primary will be mixed in with the secondary to the percentages specified here by the user. So we're going to click Optimize and run this thing. And you're just going to see, I mean, it's hard to see it on screen, but I can see here I've got text in, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Rangers, and it looks like this is a Rangers twin stack, right? Okay, let's see what the next one is. Rangers twins. All right, looks like the Rangers twins are probably the highest projected, which is why these are coming up at the top of this list. Let me just abort this so I can find some other ones. Here we go. Rangers, Washington. Rangers, Washington. There it is again. Rangers, Washington. Okay. Rangers. Let's find the next one. Rangers, Cleveland. So, Washington, Cleveland, Twins. It's going to cycle through all of the teams in Stack 2 with each of the teams in Stack 1. The reason you're seeing, for example, the Rangers up top is just because they must be, listen, it's Rangers and the Mets. The Mets don't have a lot of high projected players. So they're those Mets lineups are probably going to show up more towards the bottom. Here they are. You're seeing these are sorted by total projection. And as you can see, by total fantasy points, as you can see, Mets, 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 Twins. Mets, Mets, Mets. Looking for Mets ones, but yeah, Mets, 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 Washington. So that's how this works. Now, that's just part one of what we're doing. Now, there's a couple of quirks here that I want to point out. The stacking functionality allows you to put the same team on both sides. You might say, well, I want the Rangers at 20% as well on a 3-player stack. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. The tool is going to look at both sides and say, if you have the same team on Stack 1 and Stack 2, for those 20% of lineups, when the Rangers comes up, when the Rangers primary comes up, for those 20% that would overlap right here, right? Those 18% that are going to overlap, it's just not going to stack, double stack it. It's going to go Rangers with no stack. So you'll get 5 Rangers. And let me actually hit optimize, because I wouldn't be surprised if those lineups show up at the very top of the order here. That's usually what happens. So you notice as new lineups are popping up top here, that's probably an unstack. So let's take a look and see if that's true. Okay. No. Damn it, Minnesota and their high projection messed up that hope. But a lot of times that is what ends up happening, because normally when you leave a lineup unstacked, the total projection is generally higher than a stacked lineup would be. I'm going to try to see if I can find one without Minnesota. Apparently this day, the Twins must have had really good projections or something, because they're all popping up top here. Let's see if we can get past that. Yeah, here we go. Here's a Rangers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you have Mets, Washington, Baltimore, unstacked lineup right there. So that is how that process works. Now we're going to take it to the next step and show you the really cool new innovation. So again, this is already pretty awesome. You've gained control. We figured out a way to force, because when I create a double stack, the whole point of stacking in MLB is I'm trying to catch the 2 teams that score the most runs that day and stack them together. Right? The other day we had a team score 25 points against my beloved New York Mets. You want that team. You want that team stacked. So the first thing we're trying to do is look at our primaries and say, all right, these are the teams I really love. I want to have my focus on these 3, but I want to try to stack them with someone else. That with another team that I really like. Again, it's important to note this, because if you put Mets and Rangers together on the left side in this stack area, they will not stack with one another. You can't have 2 5-player stacks on one team. And so in general, they will not stack with each other. They will only stack with teams on this side. So if I love the Mets and the Rangers, I might make sure I have some shares of them on the opposite side, and there ain't nothing wrong with rolling out some unstacked lineups too. So that is just how the system works. Now here's where it gets even cooler. We're looking at the stack, 50%, blah, 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 all this good stuff. All players. We've taken it to the next level, where you can now specify the players on the team that you will allow to be used in your stacked lineups. The only ones that are going to show up here in this drop-down box are players that are in the eligible category. So they have to have a projection. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total players. That is the starting lineup for the Mets. Now I might say, you know what? I want to stack the Mets, but I'm not a big fan of you know, Devin Mesoraco, right? I don't want him. So I don't have to allow him to be used. Maybe I don't like somebody else. I will put in the players that I want. You don't have to do this. You can just leave them all. Or you can specify, like, you might go, I want the Rangers right-handers, and get your list of, you know, who those are. Donuts makes columns about stacks. You've got CG making a stacks columns. Maybe you just want to name those specific players. That's fine. You can do it. Maybe you don't want guys who are batting 8th or 9th. Whatever. You, as the user, have control of this. You can do this on both sides. You choose the players. You can name the specific players. Now, here is the caveat. We need to be able to make a complete lineup. So if you don't leave enough players to where, let's say, I'll give an example. Let's say we're doing this Mets-Washington stack, and we've only got 3 players that we're allowing for Washington, right? We're going to go, let's take out the outfielders just to make, or let's not use third baseman, or whatever. Right? Let's take these guys out. No Jose Reyes. No third baseman, right? We're just outfielders. Or something of that sort. Right? We got a catcher. Outfielder. Outfielder. And I only figured this out because this actually happened. Right? So there was a slate where 2 teams didn't have any third baseman projected yet. And we couldn't generate the lineup. So we're like, this fucking tool sucks. It doesn't even work. This should freeze it up. Boom. Can't generate lineups, guys. Sorry. You can't have a lineup without a third baseman. So it's not going to do anything. It will freeze up the whole... And you might say, well, why doesn't it skip it? It doesn't work like that. If you leave a command in here to where it's impossible to create a lineup, and again, sometimes that happens just because certain players aren't projected yet, so they're not showing, and it's not going to make a lineup. They have 0 projection. This happened. We documented it a few times, actually. I thought originally that something was wrong, but we quickly figured out, no, these teams just don't have a third baseman scheduled to go today. Happened with the Mets the other day with Todd Frazier, wasn't in the lineup. He come off the DL, and they announced him late, and finally they had a third baseman, and that kind of thing happens. Boston had a similar situation the other day when we were testing it. So if this thing's freezing up, it's because you didn't put enough players in. Add some more. Make sure all of the positions on the roster are accounted for, or change it to a 4-3 stack. Give the tool some flexibility. That's how you make that work. The other factor is if you don't put in enough players, because we have a request for numbers of uniques where each lineup has to have another unique player in it for the next, it's hard to get uniques when you're only allowing 3 players on a 3-person stack. So be careful with how few players you allow, how few players you add. Understand the logic. You can't have 100 teams stacked with Mets 50% and 1 unique each where you've only allowed for 4 players. On a 4-player stack, you can't switch the player. It can't have uniques. That's more of something where you'd want to lock players in. But in this case, you want to add in a few players, run the tool, boom. It works. Works great. 4-3, 4-4, you do 5-3. Again, 5-3 being the most constrained on Draftkings. The concept is the same on Fanduel. So what we've done here is we've basically given you, the user, the control. The way I want you to really look at this is not so much which players I should add in picking 3 or 4. What I normally look at is which players I really don't want to use this day. Listen, I want to stack this team, but I don't like these 2 guys. So set up the lineup. Don't add the 2 guys in that you hate. That kind of thing. But remember when you're setting these up that if you really limit the number of players that you allow to be used in these stacks, then you're probably, likely going to freeze up the tool because it just can't make a lineup with what you allow it to. The other thing that's important to note, like I said, is teams on stack 1 will not stack together with another team on stack 1. Now, that doesn't mean it can't use players from that team. If, let's say this was an unstacked situation, it's possible that it will still use players from the other team, but it's not going to purposefully stack it. But when you have the double stack going, in essence, it's going to mix, these are the primary, it's going to mix these teams with the percentages you set for each team on the other side. Other important things to remember, you must not go over 100% on either side. If you do, it's not going to work. Probably, hopefully, let's see if it gives you a message. Total exposure in stack 2 exceeds 100%. Please decrease. Guess what that means? Total exposure in stack number 2 exceeds 100%. Please decrease. That's how that works. Okay. The other thing, I usually leave a little bit of leeway. The other thing to remember, again, is when you run this, if you have Mets on this side and Mets on that side, for the 20% where the Mets are of these 50% of lineups, it's not going to stack it. It's just going to do unstacked lineups. The other thing to remember, if you don't fill out this side 100%, it's not going to go and find a team to stack for you on its own. That is not how the system works. What's going to happen is those 20% of lineups, 22%, you have 20, 40, 60, 78% here used up. The other 22% of the lineups with the Mets and the lineups with the Rangers, I keep saying Texans because I'm in football mode, guys, with the Rangers are going to be unstacked. So you'll see a number of lineups here show up in the column in this area. Usually, again, they run to the top because the unstacked lineups have fewer constraints. The more constraints you put on a lineup, the more below optimal in terms of the projection it will be. But it is the optimal way to construct lineups for tournaments. So just a general thing, don't get so excited by total projection. That is not the end-all be-all, particularly for tournaments. In tournaments where we're looking for situations and correlations, I'm going to contrast that to cash games and other types of situations where the total lineup, the total projection is very, very important. Although there are still other factors in cash games, certain players are more cash viable than others. It's important to note that. Especially for, I don't know about MLB, but definitely for other sports. So that's what we have for today, guys. Super excited. Hopefully, by the time you're watching this tool has already launched and is live on our site. It was a long time coming. This was a ton of work, ton of design work to put this all together, to come up with a system that I think will allow us to do even better, as incredible of an MLB run as we've had with the DFS Army this season. And it's awesome. We've upgraded our projections. We've upgraded the Domination station, taken it to the next level. Look out for something similar when we launch our NHL product. This design originally came because I was conceiving a way to create line stacks in hockey. Because I know that the way you win tournaments in daily fantasy hockey is by stacking the right team lines. They're all correlated with one another. And I was thinking of that and the player names, and it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, this would be amazing for baseball. Because one of my pet peeves with our current system is that you can't specify player names. So it's just going to allow every single player from every team that you've stacked to be involved. Now, one other cool note before I let you go is somebody came up with a really cool idea. In fact, somebody was talking about, one person was mentioning the idea of stacking teams based on where they are in the batting order. So you can do a situation where you put like one hitter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on this side, and then you maybe do a situation where we went, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, or something like that, where you kind of allow different parts of the lineup in these various stacks on the various sides. I think that's pretty detailed stuff, but you have the control to do that kind of thing. So that's it for the new MLB Domination Station stacking function. Stay tuned for other awesome tools that are coming for the DFS Army. I'm working my ass off getting ready for football season. We have a lot of new tools coming, a lot of new stuff going on for the Dom Station. Our research station is ridiculous. I can't wait to show you guys and until we get the tutorials going on the new research station. Really cool stuff going on in there. We have some other tools. We're bringing in ownership projections, a lot of really good stuff. So stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, let's get that money, guys.